Nico, tell me about your vision.
And when you ask me about my vision, are you talking about my life vision, my work vision, anything?
It could be whatever you like to share.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have a vision for my own life, which is, I want to live a life where I'm able to travel the world, knock every item off my bucket list, live with no regrets. And so that's the life I'm living. Professionally, what I want to do is continue to grow my consulting firm, involve a bunch of my family members in it. I already have several who work with me. And I want to basically create this family company that I can, hand off and hand down to the next generations.
That's amazing. Um, how did you get started on this path? Like, where did it all come together?
Yeah. Well, the family business idea was one I think that was created in my mind when I was in college because I met several people who had a family business. They were kids in a family business, and I just thought it was so cool to just have that opportunity from the moment that you even know what work is. You have this like path that you can walk down, and even when you're in high school, you can be doing internships with the family business, and you get that work life experience. And I never liked school, so I always wish that I had had more work experience when I was younger. So I was always interested in the family business aspect. Now my family traveled a lot all the time, and so I also always had that travel bug. We're all scuba divers. We've been to crazy places, and so incorporating travel, family business. I don't. These are just the things that I liked, and it was like, okay, how do I design my life to include all of those things? That was the question.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did you get started in the business side? Like, and how did that come about? Like, was it hard, easy, uh, tough pill to swallow? Entrepreneurship. How did that come happen?
Yeah. Well, I joined a big consulting firm right out of college, moved to New York, and learned a lot while I was doing that. But I don't know. I think I always had the entrepreneurial bug. I think a lot of people, you kind of either have it or you don't. Like you either completely resent people ever telling you what to do, or you're able to stomach it. And if you
Mm,
resent people telling you what to do, you're going to be an entrepreneur. Like I think that's just what it is. You want freedom, you want autonomy. So I always had that. And it was just kind of a matter of time developing skills, sucking it up and working for big companies and working for other people until I felt like I was ready to go out on my own. And I had multiple startups that failed along the way, and this one that I'm running right now is now very successful because I've learned from all my past failings. But this one is just this is a consulting firm. Like I've had a software startup in the past. I've had like a physical consumer goods startup in the past, shipping things to people all around the US. But the consulting model is one that now, after I've learned a lot of stuff, like this is one that I can scale and I can run from anywhere in the world.
I have a different perspective on what you just mentioned.
Hmm.
You said that if you don't like being told what to do, you have the entrepreneurial bug. I think as something else. Um, have you read the E Myth before by
No,
Alex
people
Gerber?
have mentioned it. People have mentioned it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, that book came out a while ago. There's a staggering um, data in that book. The statistics shows that 96% of business in the United States they failed within the first 10 years. Right.
Hmm.
And as you can tell, even from your journey, you've had a few failed businesses until you were able to have a successful business. And out of the 4% that actually are able to survive that 10-year mark, how many of them actually are just striving and how many are they thriving? So it's a pretty sad number. And if I go down to lesser years, like 5 years, I think it's like 70%. That's a different statistic. And then if I go to 2 year mark, I think it's like 60 or 50% of businesses don't make past the 2 year mark.
Hmm.
So we are living in time where people are lost, confused, and they have no idea what they're doing in the entrepreneur journey, right? My perspective is if you are able to listen and humble yourself and learn, you might be able to skip past those few years of struggle by learning from your own mistakes and you can reduce that to few of your mistakes and learn from someone else's mistakes and boost up your timeline and get there faster, easier, with less stress.
I don't disagree with that. I don't
Mhm.
disagree with that. I think that is another. I mean, look, if I could go back in time and be more humble and listen to others and learn from other people's mistakes without having to make them myself, yeah, I would have been successful a lot faster for sure. I mean,
Mhm.
early in my entrepreneurial life, people talk about like networking or whatever. When we talk about that, I just mean like being open to partnerships, helping people so that they help you in return, those sorts of things. I didn't do any of that in the early days. When I started my first couple businesses, it was just like nose to the grindstone. I'm just going to make this happen with force of will. And that's one of the learnings. It's like, no, you actually can't make it happen with force of will. It's like the world, the economy is made up of people, and you've got to be connecting with people, and you've got to humble yourself in order to connect with people. So, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think what I said, about never wanting to work for someone else, where that comes into play is if you do fail with your first startup or your second startup, you always have the opportunity to go work for someone else. It's like, well, I gave it a shot. Now I'm just going to go join a big company.
Mhm.
But for those of us who genuinely resent the idea of working for someone else, there is only one option, which is what is my next startup?
Mhm.
You know,
If I ask you this question, on the same question you asked me or you mentioned, if someone had the clarity, the path, and the direction to actually succeed and not fail in the first or the second entrepreneur journey that they have, um, would you think we would have um, more entrepreneurs right now, more entrepreneur bug right now? What path would you have preferred? And would that mentality of uh, only the people who have who can work for someone else would be able to succeed in that? Like, what do you think of what I just said? It's all mumbo jumbo, but what are your thoughts on that?
no, I mean, if I could summarize what I heard you just say was, if the startup path was easier and there was a higher likelihood of success,
Hmm.
do you think more people would go down that path?
Hmm.
And I think the answer to that is yes, for sure. I mean,
Um,
I think the fear really holds people back from taking that first leap to try their first startup. Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. My next question for you goes along to what you just mentioned, but maybe there's more to this that I'm not listening or hearing yet. Why do you think, Nico, leaders hide from funding their vision? And then how can those same leaders then lean into funding their vision?
Why do leaders hide from funding their vision? Um, yeah, I mean, maybe it is kind of what I just talked about with fear, but I don't know. I mean, there's everybody kind of is coming at it from their own angle. Like obviously you can be afraid to jump. You can be afraid to launch your own vision. You may think, this is the only money I have. What if I lose it? Or if you're going to raise money, you may think, how am I going to raise money? I'll never be able to do it. Or if I do raise it and then I lose my investors' money, now I'm like on the hook and they're never going to like me again. I mean, there's all sorts of fear, I think, that keeps you from like running towards that. And I guess I'll keep coming back to what I was saying about like when you never want to work for someone again, the fear of being in an office for the rest of your life working for somebody outweighs any other fear that you might have about losing money or pissing off an investor or anything like that. And so it's kind of like, what's your greater fear? Like that's going to move you. Oh, you're going to move away from your greatest fear, is what I would say. And by the way, in my first startup, I did raise money, investor dollars. We did not end up getting those investors a return. We ended up having to close up shop. We sold the IP. We got a lot of our money back, but no return at all. And that was a lesson to me, honestly, and it was a reason why I sort of went in the direction that I've gone now, which is you know low capital intensity. Like I don't really need to raise money to start a consulting business, and you can have a really healthy cash conversion cycle so that money comes in from customers before you have to pay it out to vendors or, employees or anything like that. And so you can basically fund your own growth. And that was something I really wanted to do. Whatever my next business was going to be, it had to have that, because I did not want to go through the craziness of raising money again and then having to deal with investors and then having to, you know, in a downside scenario, disappoint them.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us, Nico. I'm going to mention one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you mentioned again with uh, that when you have a desire to not work for anyone else, um, that's when this entrepreneur bug goes through. I disagree again. Well, I'll tell you why. Um, I have something of that similar propositions. If I can work for myself and make it successfully, provide for my family, I'll do that. The only circumstance I would not go the other route. I would go the other route would be the worst case scenario for me would be literally getting a tech job and making I don't know $100,000 or more a year and support my family. I think that would be the worst case scenario for me in this aspect. Um, but if given a chance to work with maybe Tony Robbins or uh, Jeff Bezos or
Yeah.
Elon Musk, for that example. Like, there's so many people who have done something extraordinary. But if I give a chance, like, hey, you go and stay with these guys and you work for them and you absorb as much as you can, I will jump on that firsthand because things that I learned from that would absolutely outweigh what I could do myself within the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years easily. That's what I think. But
Yeah.
it's to me, it's I don't want to put myself in a box where that hey, I have this bug that I definitely cannot work for someone else. I just have to be the entrepreneur journey. Understandable, but I'm
Yeah.
like I can go either or. And if you would have asked me the same question 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, I might have had the same exact answer you did.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact answer you did. What
Yeah.
do you think of that part? Like, do you agree, disagree? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I agree in part with what you just said.
Mhm,
If I was given that opportunity right now, I would really have to think about it, honestly, because my life's pretty good right now running my own business. But
mhm,
after my second startup failed, I did end up working for somebody else. Okay. But I worked for somebody else in a chief operating officer capacity. It was a great industry that was about to get a huge government subsidy. And I knew that it was a business that was going up, up, up. I had some stock options. It was a way to make money and a way to learn a lot. We ended up raising private equity funds. So I got to sort of dabble in that world. I mean, there was a lot of the learning that came out of that. And so I said yes to that job working with them. Just like if Elon or Jeff Bezos or somebody came to me and really wanted me to work with them, I would have a hard time saying no because of the learning. So I totally agree with you. The only difference is, when you said, I think about everything that I'd learn over, 3, 5, 10, 20 years. I could stomach the 3, I could stomach the 5. I don't know if I would want to do that for 10 or 20 years, even if it was Elon. Like,
mhm.
I would want to learn some stuff from them and get that value. And then I've got to be out on my own again. It's just,
Right.
that's that bug that I'm talking about. So there's a middle ground.
So you want to learn. So that's what I'm saying. So there's not a hard line there. The hard line is learning capacities, and if you're able to boost your journey faster. So that's what I wanted to know. Okay, that's thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you today. What is your why of what you do, Nico? Like, what is if you could have the essence of the why, what gets you out of bed every morning and do what you keep doing? What is that?
Yeah, I mean, the essence that gets me out of bed every morning is the thrill of a challenge, for sure. And whether that's work, whether that's going on some long swim or a long run or scuba diving or some sort of adrenaline seeking activity, that's what I want to do every day. That's what I think, if when I'm on my deathbed, if I look back and I say, man, I really challenged myself a lot. I had a lot of great thrills, a lot of great adventures. I lived a great life. So that's the essence that gets me out of bed.
Thank you for sharing that. Would you like to? Um,
Know yours? Sure.
no, I mean you can. Would you can? Yeah. For me, I'm still figuring a lot of things out, but
Mhm.
what I would say is waking up, spending time with my family, and
Mhm.
uh, having a healthier boundaries in life. I think that's
Mhm.
pretty exciting. Another thing that I'm working on recently is it's called opportunities for Indians. It's my
Mm.
way of closing the financial gap between the West world and the other side of the world.
Mhm.
Um, we have found that the opportunities me and you have, and most of the Americans do, most of Canadians do, and most of Europe does. Most of the world does not have that opportunities. They don't know, and some of them haven't been taught the skills necessary to feed their families on a proper extent. They don't know the guidance. They don't have the skills. They can't speak the language right, and
Mhm.
this is our way of teaching them skills, and getting them a better job and just caring. And I don't know if I can make a dent in that huge ship, but I'll try my best to do either or. That's what gets me
That's awesome.
excited. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I spent some time in Mumbai, and beautiful place. I mean, there is a lot of wealth there too, but you're right. There's a
Hmm.
whole other, side of the country that is very, very impoverished and could
Hmm.
use a lot of help for sure.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a vision pro yourself.